You're at the Coaching Inn, 3D Coaching's virtual pub, where we enjoy conversations with people who are engaged in the world of coaching.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Coaching Inn. I'm your host, Claire Pedrick. And just a reminder, as you're listening, it would be lovely for us to know where in the world you are. So do pop us a note in comments on whatever app, whatever thing you're listening to on. Or send us an email to info@3dcoaching.com and say, I listen to the Coaching Inn and I live in wherever. Be lovely to hear that. Today, we have a guest from the UK who is a friend of mine and who honoured us, by hosting the launch of the last book, The Human Behind the Coach, in our in the virtual Coaching Inn, didn't you, Karen?
I did, yes. It was lovely.
So, welcome, Karen Foy.
Thank you. Lovely to be here. Thank you.
And you've finally written the book. When I kept writing the book you wanted to write.
I was saying that to somebody the other day. Every time Claire wrote a book, I was like, that's the book I wanted to write. So I thought I'd better get off my backside and do one.
And what a great book it is, because I've read a version of it. And it's delightful. So, Karen, just what got you into coaching? And then we'll talk about the book.
Yeah. What got me into coaching? I was saying to somebody recently, it was by accident. I don't know whether a lot of people do that, but it was by accident. I was working in the NHS, working nationally for the NHS. I went on this programme, Creativity, Innovation and Change with Open University. I went on a summer school, and there were these, you had to choose which tutors and things. And there were these two guys who were talking about this thing called coaching. But as I was listening, I thought, oh, that's what I do when I'm supposed to be working. Sneaking and having conversations with my co-workers, and, they'd bring, oh, I'm struggling with this. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I asked them, well, where did you learn this stuff? And they told me. So I went off and did my first coaching. So I stayed in my job, or different jobs within the NHS, but was doing that on the side and absolutely loved it. So for a while, it took me before I jumped and thought, I'll do this full time. Yeah. So that's how I got into it, purely by accident. I didn't know what the heck it was, what it was supposed to be and what it was called.
Yeah. I'm thinking something inside and I don't know whether to say it or not.
Oh, go on. Why don't you?
I really get that, and you have deinstitutionalized yourself.
Oh, tell me more.
Well, if I didn't know what sector you'd come from, and there's a way people, in lots of organizational sectors, there are ways people lead, and you can kind of get a sense this person comes from, the not-for-profit or the corporate, or the multinational or the small or the public sector or whatever. But I would not have had you down for the NHS. How interesting.
Wow. And you know what's interesting as well, when you said the not-for-profit, I spent a lot of time working in community action. So I worked a lot in the voluntary sector. And interestingly, although eons ago, when Flo Nightingale was a girl, I was working as a nurse. But that was many, many years ago. And I think I'd be I think I was dangerous then. I think I'm even more dangerous now. But when I sort of broke out from that, I went off and did a psychology degree and came back. And then I started working in community action. So I led a team. And we worked very much in getting patient voices in NHS.
Oh, nice.
In policy. And so that's what I was doing in the NHS, out of the clinical role, keeping everybody safe, but just getting patients' voices into the NHS. So, yeah, so that was, so I did both. So non-government, did some time advising in the Department of Health as a comment, but NHS, yeah. So, yeah, there's a surprise, eh?
Yeah, but you're talking there about lots of listening, aren't you?
Yeah.
Listening to patients, listening to co-workers.
Yeah.
All of those things. So I apologise for writing your first 2 books.
Well, I'm glad you did, because you did a marvellous job. I loved both of them, and still, still been looking, as you know, at one of your new editions. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. So tell us about your 3rd book then.
Yes, because I do own those as well. I feel like I co-own those.
So breaking the coaching code.
Yeah.
Oh, I like the rebellion in there.
Yeah. Or cracking the code. Who knows? Yeah, there is. Well, I'm a little bit nervous and thinking, is it as rebellious as it could be? Because it doesn't feel it now to me. It doesn't feel rebellious. It feels like where you and I have been talking a long time around. You know what it's like. I started writing this book thinking about all of the people that I mentor or work with who have got this idea that, and a phrase I hear a lot is, oh, well, is that all right? What would the ICF police think? And, I just thought, oh my God, this is just getting in everybody's way of being the great coaches I can hear behind that. How can we free them up? So it was a bit, I worried when I first started writing it, is this just a repeat of the human behind the coach? Because it's kind of the same idea of how can we just free up people's internal wisdom? And it doesn't mean rebellious as in, breaking the code's not about, oh, let's just trash those. It's just, let's stop thinking of them as these rules that so many myths have grown up around them. I don't know whether you've noticed that.
Yeah, I have.
This is not allowed. That's not allowed. Now, who says it's not allowed? Yeah.
And I listened to a recording the other day with someone, and they said, I want to get my MCC. So for those of you who are not, who come from no coaching tribe or other coaching tribes, that's the top. I see the International Coach Federation. It's the top credential. And they said, I don't think my coaching style will fit. So I said, okay, let's listen. Of course it fitted. There's they need to do some, they need to tighten some things up. But the tightening up is them doing what they're doing even better.
Yes.
Rather than them doing what they think someone else is doing. Can we just stay with rebel for a bit?
Yeah.
Because as you're talking, I'm thinking, you and I have had these conversations for a number of years now.
Yeah.
And I think that we are, when we're together, I observe that we actually see how we perceive stuff as being quite normal.
Yeah,
and therefore it doesn't feel very rebellious.
Yeah.
But I also notice that when you or I talk simply to groups of people or to individuals, it's quite radical.
Yes. Yeah.
And that makes me sad, actually.
Where do you think the sadness is coming from? Because I agree, and I'm just wondering where yours comes from.
I think there's a huge pressure to tell people they need to know a lot, teach it to them very fast, not leave time for them to embed it, and then tell them that they're coaching at a certain level. So I'm thinking about accredited programs.
Yeah.
So they push people out, accreditation ready for the level, for the second level of accreditation, when actually they probably haven't done a huge amount of work and they haven't integrated it. So it's like, you and I both have interesting ways of processing things.
Yes.
But there's something about, teaching somebody to do something, and then when they start implementing it over time, they can't remember.
Yeah.
Because they learnt so much. And the sadness is the myth that you need a lot and you need it quickly.
Yeah.
And I would say, for me, you need a little bit and you need it slowly.
Yeah.
And then you can add things in when they are really going to be useful.
Yeah. That's really, it's really interesting, because it's something you and I spoke quite a few years ago, and you said something that's kind of one of the seeds of this book. You said something to me about, at 3D coaching, we teach mastery from the start.
Yeah.
And it really challenged me for a while, because I was thinking, what is this teaching? What's different about teaching mastery from the start? And so it really made me, I really had to think about it and really reflect on it for a long time. And like you're just saying now, it's not just teaching stuff from the start.
Yeah.
It's the way of being from the start. And I think you're right. We teach the stuff, whatever the stuff is. We teach the competencies, and when you do it like this and you do it like that. But I think there's something about the being from the start, and that's part of what I'm doing in this book. Is the first part of it is not about particularly about coaching, but about yourself and who you are. Again, the human behind the coach, but just from a different take, about just reflecting on what is it that you're bringing. Because one of the things that I see in mentoring quite a lot is when people are trying to stick to these rules and trying to implement the stuff they've been learned, they forget their unique gift and who they are. And we're all different, aren't we? You and I are different coaches, but it's what we bring. So it's almost like, I know for a long time, I tried to rub out what I was to be what I thought was a good coach. And I think of our mutual friend, Abudi, in this, where he says, give up trying to be a good coach to be a great one.
Yeah.
And I was trying, and I even remember, and I've used this when I've been doing coach education and used it as an example and said, I remember somebody saying to me a long time ago on a program that I was working on, well, we all love you. You're everybody's favourite auntie, but I can't really put you in front of the big guys, can I? Because you're not like one of those, what the implication was, I wasn't one of those tough go-get-em coaches, which around me everybody seemed to be. And I know I wasn't, but it sent me into a spin for a couple of years.
I remember.
About, I'm not good enough. You've been there, you were there with me going through that. I'm not good enough. I've just got to get tougher. I've got to start challenging. And then somebody said to me about, well, I just see you with these big guys, that they just melt because you kind of disarm them. And so I had to lose this idea that I'd got to try and be like that coach and be the best coach I could be. It feels like a bit of a ramble, but it's the back to get to know who you are. Then you'll be a good coach.
What you're describing there, isn't it funny that what we know now that we didn't know then?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've heard you tell that story before, and as you're telling it today, it reminds me of the thinking that I'm doing around status.
Yeah.
And I've just written in the Inside the Coaching in Substack, I've just written a post about status introductions.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether in those spaces you weren't doing status introductions either, and other people were. And I observe that if status introductions are important to you, when we don't do them, we look small.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But actually, it's if we want the people we work with to show up to be themselves, then we have to be ourselves.
And that reminds me, Alison Hodges gave me a great phrase when she was teaching on the supervision program and that we run. And I've taken it, I've stolen it like a magpie. It's that, how dare we ask anybody else to show themselves, to be vulnerable, to do that, if we're not willing to do it ourselves? If I roll up with what I think of as my Spanx on, that all the armour that says, here I am, this is my background, this is what I've done, this is how clever I am, then that's what I'm going to be met with. I'm not going to see the human.
I have to be careful about this story. I was in a situation a few months ago where there were a number of people in the room. I was not leading, so I was a participant.
Yeah.
And one person didn't arrive as a human, and everyone else did arrive as a human.
Mm.
And it was really interesting to be on because you can kind of make yourself an observer there, can't you? So I was engaged and I was fully joining in, but I was also observing what was going on. And it was just very interesting to observe what was going on from the sidelines, as it were, and to notice how that didn't work with the other people. And I was doing a little secret cheer inside. Going, oh, my little thought experiment is right. It doesn't work.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Karen, breaking the coaching code. I was thinking about an egg, actually. I just happen to have one here. So I'm going to show it to prove that I have weird things on my desk.
Got breakfast ready.
If you say breaking an egg, the egg becomes itself by breaking, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So breaking the coaching code is kind of, we get inside.
Exactly. And
what a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And I it was all too much for my spiky brain to get the permission and the copyright permission to put Leonard Cohen's words in there. But I really, from Anthem about ring the bells that still can ring, there's a crack in everything, and that's where the light gets in. I really wanted to put that in there because it's such an important thing, I think, about, like I say, we're trying to polish up the impurities in ourselves and not realizing that's the gift, that's the gold, that's what we bring. So I know what I bring, and I've seen it for so long as I don't know, something to be overcome, instead of actually that. Oh, there you go. That's the thing you bring in. And working with Lawrence Barrett in supervision, he's I love Lawrence's work and how he looks at things, but he just really helped me to see. But that's why people come to you, because they see, people are going. I go around with a not good enough constantly, but for people to be able to say, yeah, I've got that as well, and I'm still doing stuff. I'm still having a great life. I'm still loving life. All of that, still doing great work that I love. Whether I'm doing great work for somebody else to say, but what I mean is work that's great for me, I'm doing. And still think I'm not good enough. So, but that's what, I thought about and thought, do I want to go to a coach that's perfect and got it all sorted? And it's like, God, no, I don't want to be there. I want somebody who can give me some hope that, yeah, it's tough. Yeah.
My last supervisor, Fiona Adamson, said, we were talking about my imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And she said to me, so Claire, would you like to work with somebody who didn't have imposter syndrome? And I really made me think about, what is it like? I'm not criticizing people who don't have imposter syndrome, by the way, but for me, I need to be with somebody who's not fully formed, sorted, perfect.
Yeah.
And we're not. And yeah. So coming back to your lovely book.
Oh, I'm loving that you're giving me so many plugs for my book.
Lovely listeners, we couldn't get the title right before we started this. But anyway, it's called, I've got it written down, Breaking the Coaching Code.
Yes.
So what did you learn as you were writing, Karen?
I think the biggest thing I learned was how much I still have to learn. The more I started writing, the more I thought, oh God, I want to look at that. I need to look at that in more depth. And I was uncovering things, things that I wanted to go off and research and think about. I still have this little niggle in the back of my mind, a little dream still of doing a doctorate, not for any career aspirations, but just so I could do one. But always thinking, well, what's the question that I'd be asking? But so many questions came up from doing that to doing that writing. The other thing I learned was, and you know this because you were there, I have that lovely spiky ADHD brain that means I can procrastinate until I get the crap energy. And what was really great was when we had our little session of
Body doubling. Yeah, I love that.
And just you being there, me being here, both writing, both doing, having a little chat and then back to it, how much that helped me to actually write down. I mean, I love writing, but getting to it is really hard. I've got another book in my, well, I've got more than one, but one in my mind that's there. I've even put some notes down about what it wants to be. But I need another body doubling session to actually write something down.
Because the words you wrote on that day are now in a final manuscript with the publisher. Exactly. The words I wrote on that day are in the bin.
But it was just the getting to it. Just doing that writing. And, you know, it's interesting when you were saying about how different we are now from a few years ago. And even, I don't know whether you experience this, but even this book now, ready to go out, I'm thinking, now I want to put, there's other stuff I want to put in here. Did you get that?
Yeah. I got it. It's so funny, isn't it? Because there's a line and you have to submit. And actually, my discipline now is to draw the line before that, because my colleagues are going to me, you've got to say anything I learn after today is not going in in the book.
That's it. Yeah.
And you have to do, so I have to do that now. So I'm having to do that about the next book kind of now. Nothing I learn now is going in the book unless it's really, really, really important. Otherwise, I just never kind of can get the flow right.
Yeah.
But the day you submit the manuscript before the typesetting, you go, I think that's just complete enough. Yeah. And then it comes back from the typesetting and they go, you can only make this, you can't hardly make any changes. And you go, well, I don't think that anymore.
I know. Exactly.
And then when it comes back in the box opening ceremony, you go, oh, but I wouldn't have had that chapter. I'd have had a different one. So, Karen, what's the different chapter you'd have had?
Oh, I'm not sure if it's a different chapter or just more depth in the ones that I've put in and newer learning to add in and extend the thinking. I think it's more that than a brand new chapter. I mean, there might be other chapters, but it's interesting. I've got the book, and I have the box. I haven't done any of the box opening ceremony because I just think, I don't. Anyway, but where was I going with that? Yeah, I haven't actually looked in it. I don't know. I feel a bit nervous about it all, and I happened to be on when it arrived. My husband was bringing it into the kitchen, and where I'm sitting here at the bottom of the garden, I've got windows all across so I can see what's happening in the kitchen. I saw these boxes arrive and I was on my own group supervision and I noticed and saw them come and I could feel a reaction. I could feel tears, and it wasn't wonder joy. It was oh crap, I'm actually going to put this out in the world, am I now? Is that so? I was so scared when it came. So I'm a bit scared of it, opening it up and seeing, like you say, what would I have put in different now? Feels
well,
a bit
I hope you've got some webinars lined up to share your new learning, Karen.
The only thing at the moment I've got lined up is we've got a day at Henley Business School, which you're obviously watching for the weather and whether you can come or not. But is a book launch there. And before the book launch, we're doing a day of, because there's 3 of us launching our books at the same time. So I've just a session there taken from the book. But up to now, that's all I've got planned.
You and I need to have a different conversation about this.
I need some coaching, Claire.
Or some tips.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now I've got all sorts of ideas bubbling up that I'd love to offer you. I won't offer you them here, but I will offer them to you.
Thank you. I will appreciate that. Yeah. I'm the world's worst at promoting myself. I'll promote anybody else to the nth degree, but for myself, it's a bit hold back.
And the book world is interesting because we have to talk about it. So today, as we're recording, it was the Business Book Awards last night, and only one of them has told me what happened. We had 5 people from the Coaching In, 5 guests at the Coaching In were shortlisted.
Right.
And I want to know. I really, really want to know. But what I learned when I went to the Business Book Awards last year was just how much promotion we need to do for our own books. Because even if they're in bookshops, we need to talk about them, and we need to talk to people who are going to talk about them.
Yeah.
Because you're saying something really important, because I would love, next time somebody says to me, oh, I love your books because they're the only coaching books I understand, I'd love them to say, there are only 3 coaching books I understand.
Thank you.
Yours and Breaking the Coaching Code.
Yeah.
Because what I love about what you've written is it's really easy to read. And it's got some really fantastic nuggets all the way through. And nuggets are what change the world, aren't they? I'm not dissing theory. But if I read a book that's really theoretical, I'll go, oh, that's really interesting, or oh, that's really challenging, or oh, that's something to think about. But actually, if I read a nugget, I can use that today.
Yeah.
And that will change things for me, and it will change things for the person I'm working with. So what a wonderful thing.
Oh.
Keep going.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I've always loved stories. In fact, fairy stories saved me when I was feeling really scared and vulnerable when I was young, and I just put a fairy book in front of me, so I couldn't see anything else. I could just see the book. So books have been so important. But yes, of course, like you, I can read the theory, I can read the academic books, but they don't grip me. And what grips me is a story. And so that's what I wanted to write in this book, more of a story of this, kind of the story of how we do this thing that we do, or how we live it, because it's not really a doing, is it? How we live this thing that we do. And I think you're right. I absolutely, you and I went, you took me through my MCC mentoring, and which was fab. And I still remember and still repeat little stories or little nuggets that you gave me. And other people, it's just that nugget that comes, and I think, oh yeah, that's the thing. And I can hold on to that, where, I'll lose interest. My brain will not hang on to the deep stuff. And I've always thought of that as a failing, because I know a lot about a lot of stuff, a little bit about a lot of stuff. And I know that, but don't test me right underneath the, well, somebody said this is, theory says this is right. There are some theories, of course, that I remember really well, but others, I just think, no, but that's the nugget of it. That's the spirit of it. And even go
on. Because the real question is, what difference is this going to make, or how can this be useful?
Yeah.
Or not?
Yeah.
Somebody told me a lovely story in the last few days about, in supervision, they'd shared with the person they were coaching their latest favourite piece of learning because they're on a course. And this person is self-aware enough to have laughed at themselves and gone. So they just stared at me. and then jumped into making meaning from their own learning.
Yeah.
Which is a much better place to be. But there are so many myths, aren't there, in the coaching profession?
Absolutely.
About you don't need any training at all. It's just a conversation. Well, that's very expensive. It's not going to make any difference.
Yeah.
Or you've got to do it this way, and you've got to add value by showing how knowledgeable you are.
Yeah.
And that's so much pressure on coaches. And I notice that coaches are so busy trying to recall the thing they're trying to demonstrate they are going to add value with that they completely lose track of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know whether it's something I'm sure you'll have seen it such a lot. I mean, I consider myself a really hard worker in life. I mean, I procrastinate, all of that stuff, but I work hard. I have worked hard all my life. But the one thing I don't work hard in is coaching. And what I see is people working really hard. And I think that's the thing I say more than anything. You're working too hard. You're doing too much. And I think it is, like you say, looking for the powerful question. And as somebody reminded me the other day, what I've written in the book is the question will find you.
Yes.
If you're present, if you're listening with curiosity, the question appears. You don't have to go looking for a powerful question. And that is one of the little stories I always share when I'm doing mentoring groups from our time together. And when I was being mentored by you, and I said, don't worry about the question. I remember so well, we were listening to my recording and we'd got the chat box open. And I asked some question, I don't know what the question was, and you put in the chat box, oh, terrible question. And I put in, yeah, I know, I'm really embarrassed. And you said, but mastery, because you just left it. And that was really helpful because it was a terrible question. And there was no, let me just give you a better question. Let me do it. It was just, oh, crap, that was rubbish in my mind.
Yeah.
Let it go. Yeah.
But they picked up all the terrible bits.
Yeah. Yeah.
And made them into something really very, very golden.
Yes. Exactly. And I think that's it, like you say, these myths that people think that's not allowed, this is needed, that's needed. I mean, I don't know, sometimes my coaching, sometimes it's not, it wouldn't fit into those barriers, but is it what the person needs that's opposite with me, whatever? Yeah, seems to be.
But Karen, I think that often the recordings that I listen to of the people who say this can't be even vaguely in the rails, they usually are.
Yeah.
But they're just not dot to dot.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're free-form art.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're still in the style of... And I was with a group this week. I can't remember the context, but I said to them, if you're going to coach like that, you might as well let somebody have a bot, an AI. They might as well go to an AI bot.
Yeah,
because it's technically perfect, and it's not connecting enough, and you're not saying what you notice, and it just all feels a bit duly diligent.
Yeah. And that's something I briefly talk about in the book, that exactly that. There's all this talk in the coaching profession about AI and what AI is going to do and all of that. And my honest view on that, Claire, is a lot of coaches will lose their business because if you're not doing something beyond what the bots can do, we're already seeing they can do it better.
Yeah, they can.
If we go into the performance coaching, like, this is what you want, where are you now, how are you going to get there? the bots will do it better, cheaper, more conveniently, lots better. So a lot of coaches will fall out, I think. That's just my prediction. They'll fall out of this if they're not doing something beyond that. Because why would anybody pay for coaching from a human if it's just, I need to do this, how am I going to do it? They'll find a way. So I think there's that. And something you said earlier that just comes back to me around this idea of you can't learn this stuff quickly. And when you were saying to me about mastery, why it started really making me reflect on it, I started thinking about, how do I do that? How do I, because I was leading the programs at the time at Henley, how do I do that and make it more, mastery from the beginning? So I really had to think about it. And I came to a place of, there is a time and a place at the beginning of coaching where you do have to learn the rules, if you like. We have to learn the rules. I know it always gets, it's misquoted. I don't think it was the Dalai Lama that says it, but about learn the rules, so you can break them effectively. But you do need there is a time of learning the rules, but there's got to be a time where you step beyond that. And one of the influences from this book was Richard Rohr, and I know you and I have talked about him before, how much we love Richard Rohr. But when Richard Rohr talked about it from a spiritual point of view, he was saying, first half of life, like Jung, first half of life, of course you learn the rules, you learn how to be successful, you learn how to do whatever. But in his book, Falling Upwards, there's a fall. There's something that happens. And that might be in life, it might be redundancy, a loss or whatever. In coaching, I started to think, what would be the fall? And I thought, there's got to be a time where you go, is this it? Is this as much as I can do? I'm not getting any further. Or you might start losing clients because they all go to the AI. Whatever the fall is, and I'm not sure what it is yet, but there's a point where we have to make a decision. Am I going to just follow these rules as they say? And like you say, you can do a technically sound coaching conversation. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying it's not going to take you any deeper. So,
so many things. You and I need to have another conversation in a year's time. Now you've surfaced that question.
Yeah.
Because I think that now you've said that, because I've never thought about that, because I love that bit about falling over in Richard Rohr. But I've always thought about it as about being in life.
Yes.
But now you've said it can be about being in coaching. That is a really interesting thing just to observe. Can I just pick up on it has to be more than the bots?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean more stuff.
No.
Just,
not at all.
I know you mean that. I'm just saying that for our lovely audience.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean more stuff. It doesn't mean another tool, another technique.
No, absolutely not. It's being, I would say, just off the top of my head, it's being more present.
Yeah.
Being more present. Being open to, like you were saying about, open to noticing, open to trusting yourself. There's something else I always say to people about, this idea of cultivating trust and safety. It's how do you cultivate trust in yourself as a coach, to trust that I'm feeling something here or I'm noticing something, and having the courage to offer that.
Yeah. I've just written a little note below the line.
Say more.
This can't go into the current book. Or I'll be shocked. It's the difference between I see and this is what I think about what I see.
Yeah.
Or this is what I'm curious about. Sorry, I do hate that word. Because we want them to be curious, right?
Yeah.
So, Karen, as people read your lovely book, Breaking the Coaching Code,
or cracking it, we don't care.
I feel like it's like we're getting points, so we're mentioning the title.
I know. Bingo.
Oh, look, we've done it 10 times. Lovely
Bing.
listeners. Maybe we'll award a prize for the people who can say how many times we've done it.
Yeah.
So, how about, are you willing to send a copy to the person who can tell us how many times we said it?
That's the thought. Oh, we're so synced. That's the thought that went through my mind. The first person that comes to you and says it was this many times gets the book. But that means somebody's got to count them.
I can get AI to count them because sometimes AI is useful. So the question is, lovely people, how many times have we said breaking the coaching code in this podcast in full? Email your answer. Karen, how can they contact you?
At info@thecoachtribe.com.
info@thecoachtribe.com. How many times have we said by the end of this episode, breaking the coaching code? And the first person with the answer gets a free copy of the book. I can't remember. Now we've finished that game. What were we?
I don't know, but you were going to come out with something really profound.
Yeah, and it's completely gone.
You said, now that you've completed the breaking the coaching code.
What is the number one thing you want to be different for people when they read it?
I want them to acknowledge, or what's the right word, or see their own wisdom, notice their own, or their own unique coaching. Yeah, because it's different. I've always thought I can't be a second-rate Claire. I want to be a first-rate me. And so what's the first-rate you as a coach is what I'd really love that people by the end think, oh, that's me, because there's reflections as you go through to help you do that. And I'd really like them to get to that place so that, I think there's something about this coaching profession of ours. It cannot be stagnant. We've got to evolve. The other question I'm asking myself at the moment and want to actually explore even more is what's the space between coaching and these other interventions, for example, therapy? What's that space? Because I think there's a space there that we haven't got a name for.
Well, that's a completely different conversation, isn't it? Because I'm really bothered about some things at the moment. So lots of coaches are investing in parts work, for example, so that they can charge people coaching rates to do parts work when they haven't. Many of coaches who are learning to do parts work haven't got the underpinning of that.
Yeah.
To charge more than a therapist who's had many, many years of depth of training and using these things and is much more able to be artful about using them, who charges a lot less.
Yeah. Whole of the host of stories and conversations in there.
Yeah. So, breaking the coaching code out now. If you'd like a signed copy, I recommend a signed copy because it's so lovely, I think, to have a human write something. I love signing copies. We sell signed copies of all our books from the office, and I've got a signing pen. And
I've invested in one of those.
It always feels like I'm just joining in somebody's journey a little bit as I write the thing. I love it. So if you'd like a signed copy of Breaking the Coaching Code, then go to Karen's website,
thecoachtribe.com, but it's not up yet. So info@thecoachtribe.com is the place for now. Yeah.
Okay. If you'd like a signed copy of the book, email info@thecoachtribe.com and Karen will work out how you can do that.
I'll work out how to buy it.
And that's where you can talk to Karen about stuff. So thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you. This has just been a delight for an early morning delight.
A lovely early morning chat, dive deep, and really good luck with the book.
Thank you.
Enjoy reading it, lovely listeners, and we will be back next week with another episode. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, we'd love you to share the podcast with a friend or leave a comment on social media. And if you'd like to become a regular at the Coaching Inn, you can subscribe on Podbean and all major podcast channels. We look forward to welcoming you next time. You've been listening to The Coaching Inn, 3D Coaching's virtual pub. For more information, check out 3dcoaching.com.